My dogs attacked my daughter-in-law in my backyard on Christmas Eve, and now I'm losing my house and my dogs because my son is suing me. I know everyone here will probably attack me because nobody respects their elders anymore, and nowadays people think that even the tiniest inconvenience is abuse. But I'm at my limit, and my own children have turned against me in the ugliest way. I don't know where else to go except here. Maybe a kind stranger can tell me what my ungrateful family refuses to hear. I'm a 67-year-old woman. I raised 2 boys almost entirely on my own after their father left. I kept the family afloat. I worked 2 jobs. I put food on the table. I maintained our home. I made sure we had Christmas every year, no matter the budget. I did everything for my children, and somehow I become the villain because I'm not going to let my unstable younger son's wife dictate my home or destroy the traditions I spent decades building. It's unbelievable. My older son, Eric, is married to a lovely, normal woman with 2 sweet children who actually know how to behave. My younger son, Andrew, however, went and married someone who has been a problem from the moment he introduced her to me. Her name is Daphne, but honestly, even saying her name annoys me because everything about her screams trouble. She's always complaining about something. I'm allergic to this, I can't handle that noise, your dogs make me nervous, your house overstimulates me, my body reacts badly to stress, I can't eat X or Y, and on and on and on. There's always something, everything is always about her. I've called her abnormal and an attention seeker before, and I stand by it. People like her cling to the delicate victim role so they can control the room. There's always some new sensitivity or issue she insists everyone must accommodate. Andrew tells me it's a medical condition, but in my day people lived with their problems without turning them into personality traits. She uses hers as a weapon. She wants everything her way, she wants the spotlight, and every year since Andrew married her, she has tried to change Christmas. But our Christmas Eve tradition has been the same for over 30 years, the same food, the same schedule, the same games, the same photo on the staircase, the same music, the same candle lighting, everything done exactly as it should be. My sons grew up with it. They loved it. They bragged about it to their friends. And suddenly Daphne comes along and decides she's the only one who knows how things should be. She says she doesn't want certain foods because of allergies. She asks me to put my dogs away even though they're part of our home. She says the lights are too bright. She says the music is too loud. She complains that the kids get overwhelmed. Andrew criticizes the potato recipe, saying they're too salty. Every year she tries to change something. Every year she pushes, whines, sighs, and makes everything about her comfort. Every year I let it slide, until now. I decided I had had enough. So when Christmas Eve was approaching, I told Andrew very clearly that Daphne should not come this year. Not because I wanted to exclude him, he was welcome, but because she ruins the night. I told him that if he absolutely had to bring her, then she needed to respect my rules. She could not start with her usual nonsense, and rule number 1 was that she needed to stay away from the dogs. I have 2 big Rottweilers. They've been with me for years. They guard the property and love our family. People like to pretend certain breeds are dangerous, but mine are only aggressive when provoked. They've snapped at a neighbor before, but that neighbor poked a broom handle through the fence, and another time the guy yelled into my yard. People always leave out the provocation part. I told Andrew multiple times that Daphne must not approach the dogs. She always acts nervous around them, and dogs smell weakness. She acts like they're dangerous when it's her behavior that agitates them. Christmas Eve arrives. Eric's family shows up on time with gifts and festive sweaters. The house feels exactly as it should, the tree lights were beautiful, everything smelled like cinnamon and ham. Then Andrew pulls up, and I see her. She does not smile, does not greet anyone, clings to her daughter like she's shielding her from radiation. My mood dropped the instant I saw her. And then it happened. She walks into the backyard, and instantly one of the dogs runs toward her, not aggressively, just running, because that's how he greets people. And instead of staying still or crouching to let him sniff her like normal people do, she freezes. Completely freezes like someone pressed pause. Dogs don't understand that kind of energy, it confuses them. I told her this before. Andrew starts yelling, "Mom, grab the dogs," and I yelled back, "She needs to stop acting scared, she's provoking them." Before I could say more, both dogs were already around her. Daphne started screaming, which was not helpful. Andrew was yelling, their daughter was crying, everything became chaotic instantly. Andrew tried pulling Daphne back toward the doorway, but it was like they were determined to escalate the situation instead of listening. I kept telling them, if you had listened to the rules, this wouldn't be happening. You brought this on yourselves. And here's the part people twist, I did not let the dogs attack her. I didn't push her toward them. I was shouting instructions that they refused to hear. That is not the same as standing there enjoying it. They behaved like animals and made everything 10 times worse. Andrew eventually managed to drag her away. In the end she was shaking, holding her arm, already working herself into hysteria. He put her in the car and yelled that I did nothing, which is not true, and told me I was dead to him. Dramatic, theatrical language straight from his wife. They left with their daughter still crying. And yes, I continued Christmas. What was I supposed to do, cancel the entire evening because someone overreacted and refused to follow the house rules? Eric and his family were still there, I wasn't going to punish the people who respect me. The next morning, I posted our Christmas photos. They were beautiful, smiling grandchildren, perfect lighting, everything as it should be. And then came the real blow. Andrew and Daphne showed up unannounced and shoved a bunch of medical bills into my hand, thousands of dollars. They said I had to pay them, that they were going to contact animal control, and that they would sue me. They said they would force the sale of my house, all because his overly sensitive, unstable, boundaryless wife refused to respect simple rules and turned her panic into a massive catastrophe. They also said the dogs needed to be put down. I told them they were emotionally blackmailing me. I told them the real victim was me because my traditions were ruined forever. I told them I would not put down my dogs just because Daphne refuses to control herself. They left telling me this wasn't over. I told them it was, for me. And now I'm here asking how to defend myself from my ungrateful son and his unstable wife who are trying to destroy my life over a misunderstanding. Comments: I love dogs, but if I saw a Rottweiler running toward me, I'd be scared too. The dogs are the victims. Yes, but coming from someone who doesn't know how to take care of them. Certain breeds, more than others, must be trained. If the dogs were attacking your son's family and you weren't able to make them obey, then you are not a responsible owner. Now I can understand why the father of your children left, you're a horrible woman. Your daughter-in-law seems to be on the spectrum, which is why she behaves that way. Saying that in your day it was different is nonsense. If you wanted to have a family Christmas Eve, you could have kept the dogs in another part of the house, made some accommodations. If you want your son to spend Christmas with you but expect him not to bring his family so he can spend it alone with you, then you've acted entitled. And instead of accepting that and trying to fix what happened, you're here writing to blow this up even more. Update 1. I woke up 3 mornings after New Year's with the dogs barking like crazy at the front door. At first I thought it was another neighbor walking too close to my property as always, trying to provoke my boys and then complaining. But then there was a knock. I opened the door expecting to see Andrew, having come to his senses and ready to apologize for how he and his unstable wife attacked me with accusations. Instead, it was 2 animal control officers with papers, official papers. One of them had the nerve to talk to me as if I were a criminal. "Ma'am, we have a court order to take the animals into quarantine pending a temperament assessment." I thought it was some kind of joke from Andrew. He has always been dramatic, especially since marrying that woman who cries about everything. But when the officer stepped forward and read my full name, my address, and detailed the Christmas Eve incident, I began to panic. I did not want them taking my babies. I told them the dogs were only protecting the yard and that the girl had antagonized them on purpose. I even said Daphne had altered her scent with those weird essential oils she is always rubbing on herself. You know what the officer said? "Ma'am, the victim was attacked on your property by your unrestrained animals. This qualifies as negligence." Negligence? Me? After all the years I've spent training those dogs with love, treats, and structure? It doesn't matter what the neighbors say, Eric. I nearly slammed the door in their faces over that word negligence. I did what any reasonable mother would do. I grabbed the leashes and tried to sneak the dogs out the back door to Eric's house. He has a huge fenced yard. Plenty of space. He has always supported me. He understands tradition. He would never let the government take my boys. Except, when I called him, panicked, breathless, shaking, he didn't answer. His wife did. She said, "Do not bring those animals here. Eric is not getting involved in your mess. His kids grew up playing with my dogs. My dogs were so gentle the little ones could ride them like ponies. And now suddenly they're dangerous? Unpredictable? Untrained?" I tried to argue, but she hung up on me. When the officers drove off with my dogs in the back of their truck, whining and confused, I felt like my heart had been ripped out. I stood in the doorway in my robe watching them disappear with the only living creatures in this world who have never turned against me. Later that afternoon, I received calls from 3 neighbors, not to check on me, not to show sympathy, no. Each of them had spoken to animal control. One even submitted photos of her fence that my dog supposedly bit. Another claimed I intimidated her into not reporting a previous nip. I never intimidated anyone. I simply told her accidents happen and we shouldn't let the neighborhood get hostile. That's not intimidation, it's diplomacy. The problem is that I live around very sensitive people. Then, of course, Andrew decided to join in. He showed up mid-afternoon with a folder full of papers, hospital bills for Daphne's treatment, letters from his lawyer, and a packet explaining that they were moving forward with a lawsuit. I told him he was being a doormat. I told him Daphne was manipulating him. I told him that suing his own mother over a scratch was the lowest betrayal imaginable. He replied that it was not a scratch and that she needed multiple stitches, and that I was lucky the dog didn't bite their daughter too. To me, he is exaggerating and taking everything out of context. Then he added, "You let them tear into her, and you stood there yelling at us instead of helping." I tried to correct him, I did not let anything happen. Daphne froze on purpose. She always does that. But he cut me off again, "No. You are not the victim. You and your untrained animals are a danger to society. They have no idea what they're talking about. My dogs are very well trained." He's suing for a lot of money and intends to go after my house, the same house he grew up in, the same house he has zero respect for right now. I told him selling it would kill me. I told him he should grow a spine and stand up to her instead of to me. He looked at me and said that if I had listened to him, none of this would have happened and we wouldn't be in this situation. I'm not going to apologize for his wife's theatrics. Why would I? For her inability to behave normally around dogs? For her constant attempts to rearrange everything I built? I had to do it, I had to ask my son to leave. That night my cousin called me, the one who's close to Daphne, the one who always insisted I should try to understand her medical needs, as if allergies and sensory issues were some kind of disability. Turns out they are. My cousin told me that Daphne has an actual autoimmune reaction, real chronic pain, and nerve sensitivity, something that makes freezing in panic an actual symptom, not an act. So apparently, Daphne wasn't pretending to be scared, she was physically paralyzed. She literally could not move when the dogs charged. I don't believe it. I think a lot of people simply don't like my dogs and are doing everything possible to take them from me. Maybe they don't like me, and that's why they want to take away what I cherish most. I hung up on my cousin because I didn't want to listen to any nonsense. 2 days later, my phone started blowing up. Hospital photos were leaked into the family group chat, photos I had never seen. Pictures of torn-up skin on Daphne's legs and other parts of her body. I felt sick when I saw them. Not guilty, just sick at the exaggeration. The lighting made it look worse, but no one cared about that. The extended family came at me like a pack of wolves. My siblings called me reckless, unstable, dangerous. My nieces blocked me from the chat. Some anonymous coward reported the dog incidents to the HOA. Within 24 hours the HOA was at my door demanding I comply with safety regulations that are so many and so absurd that I've ignored them for years. I called the board president, and he had the nerve to tell me that if I raised my voice again, he would personally fine me. There is no normal tone to use on these people, they deserve to be yelled at a little. Everything seemed to be falling apart. Then, in the middle of the night, my phone buzzed. Andrew sent the official documentation. They are suing me. They are forcing the sale of my house. They are demanding the dogs be euthanized. I started shaking so hard the phone slipped out of my hand. I sat on the kitchen floor for an hour staring at that email. So I'm ending this update the same way I started it. I'm going to fight, even though I still don't understand why everyone insists this is somehow my fault when I did not do everything possible to make the dogs attack her. That was her. Update 2. I don't know how to start this without sounding like I'm asking for pity, so I won't. I'm writing because my life looks nothing like it did a month ago, and I feel awful inside. The court date came faster than I expected. I thought legal things took forever. I thought Andrew was bluffing. I thought Daphne's family would calm down after the holiday drama passed and stop feeding off panic stories. I was wrong about everything. I arrived at the courthouse with a folder full of photos of my dogs with my grandchildren. I brought printed messages. I warned Andrew not to bring Daphne. I had statements from 2 friends who know my dogs would never attack unprovoked. I thought that if I put everything on the table, the judge would see how ridiculous this lawsuit was. The judge did not care about any of it. He talked about owner responsibility. He talked about previous incidents. He talked about lack of restraint. He read a list of complaints from years ago, one from a neighbor I don't even like, another from someone who moved away, another from the HOA. He acted as if every complaint was a fact and not the neighborhood's obsession with my dogs. Then he looked at me directly and said my lack of remorse was disturbing. Disturbing, as if I were some sort of monster. They are the monsters trying to take my babies from me. I tried to make him see that. But there are people who do not deserve to hold that kind of responsibility when they are clearly incapable of it. He declared me liable, fully liable. Medical expenses, legal fees, fines, court costs, the whole list. He approved the forced sale of my house to cover the bills. He gave me 45 days to vacate, 45 days to leave the home I lived in for 37 years, the house I paid for entirely on my own, the house where my Christmas Eve traditions began. Andrew sat behind his lawyer. Daphne wasn't even there, she doesn't show up in person, she sends others to fight for her and plays the fragile victim somewhere else. I drove home alone after the hearing. I didn't call Eric. I didn't call anyone. A week later, the results of the dog's evaluation arrived. I wasn't expecting good news. I knew animal control wanted to make an example out of me. Still, I wasn't prepared for how cold the process was. They said the dogs failed, that they were unsafe, that euthanasia was required. That word felt like a hand tightening around my throat. I filed an appeal. I begged. I called every number on the paperwork. I told them another test would prove the truth, that my dogs were family, that they had been trained with love. The appeal was denied in 2 days. 2 days to decide the lives of the creatures who had protected me, loved me, slept beside my bed. That night, I slept on the kitchen floor because I couldn't bear the silence of my bedroom. 2 days later, I began packing. I'm not good at packing, because I've lived in the same place forever. I always assumed I would die in that house. I always assumed my sons would bring their families there, even when they were old, even if Daphne turned everything upside down with her issues. So I packed badly. I shoved clothes into boxes without folding them. I wrapped dishes in towels without thinking. I kept stumbling on little things that stopped me in my tracks. Eric still wasn't answering. When I finally got hold of him, I didn't waste time. I told him I needed a place to stay for a while until I figured things out. I reminded him that I am his mother and that his brother caused all of this. I reminded him how much I've done for him. He didn't give in. He said, "Mom, I'm not doing this." I asked him, "Doing what?" He said, "All of this, the dogs, the lawsuit, the way you talk about Daphne, the way you handled Christmas. I can't bring that into my home." I told him he was choosing her over me, just like Andrew. He said, "No, I'm protecting my family from you." Daphne had managed to turn both my sons against me. His wife got on the phone long enough to say one sentence, "Stay away from us." So that's it. One son suing me, the other rejecting me, both acting as though I'm some danger to society. I moved into a rental on the outskirts of town. It's small, it smells like old carpet and bleach, the windows stick, and the walls are so thin I can follow the neighbor's television. No yard, no porch, no place where my dogs would have stretched out in the sun. The first night, I sat on the floor with a blanket because I hadn't unpacked anything. I looked at my phone, scrolling through photos of last Christmas before Daphne ruined it. Photos of Eric's kids smiling, of Andrew laughing at the table, of the dogs lying by the tree. I couldn't stop zooming in on the dogs, how normal they looked, how loved they were. I don't know what to do with the rage that keeps boiling in me. People say I should feel guilt. I don't feel guilt, because I did nothing, and neither did my dogs. If I feel anything, it's rage for everything that was taken from me. They took my house, my dogs, and my family, the things I loved most in life. If my son hadn't brought his wife into my home, or if he hadn't married such a weak woman, none of this would have happened. Now everyone blames me because of that deformity. I hate her. The house sold quickly. I think my neighbors helped show it and recommended it just to make sure they'd never have to see me again. I hate when sharks smell blood, how opportunistic they are. Andrew's lawyers handled everything. I barely received a portion of what was left after paying the entire lawsuit. He called last week to say Daphne needs surgery because the scar healed badly. I'm sure she's been scratching it to make the problem bigger and blame me. It's so typical of her. They said she faces months of rehabilitation and that Andrew took 2 weeks off to care for her. My granddaughter now panics around big dogs and won't sleep alone. I hate when people use children to amplify an issue beyond what it is. I knew they hated me, but not to this extent. It disgusts me. I still love my granddaughter, even though she ended up with that pathetic excuse for a mother. So I tried sending my granddaughter a birthday gift, a teddy bear and a card. I wrote that grandma loves her and hopes she feels better after the Christmas chaos. I sent it to Andrew's address because that's where she lives. It came back unopened, returned to sender. Inside was a note from Andrew saying he would involve the police if I continued harassing his family and that I should not contact them again. My siblings don't talk to me except to tell me to go to therapy. I blocked them because they're cowards who choose the easiest side. If they think I'm unstable, they can stay away. I'm done with lectures from people who haven't lived my life. The HOA kept fining me for past violations, apparently they can do that even after I moved. I paid because I had to, but I hate those petty rules designed only to punish people. Another Christmas came, and for the first time in my life, I spent it alone, no children, no grandchildren, no dogs. Just me. I heated up a frozen dinner and ate it standing because sitting at the table made me nauseous. I opened Instagram that night, not on purpose, my finger moved on its own. I saw photos of Eric's family at someone else's house. I saw photos of Andrew's family with Daphne's cousins, smiling around another tree. I saw cousins and nieces, all together in a group photo I would have been in before. I threw the phone onto the couch and stared at the wall until my eyes hurt. Comments: from your very first post, it's obvious you hated your daughter-in-law for no reason. It's clear she has medical conditions, which is not a reason to hate anyone. But here you've caused an earthquake in your own life simply because you're an entitled grown woman who cannot make a few accommodations. You think you're the victim, when in reality everyone around you has been your victim at some point. The entire universe cannot hate you, including Reddit comments, and you still think you're right. Your children, your neighbors, even Reddit are begging you to reflect, and what do? Make everything worse. Your daughter-in-law needs surgery because of your negligence, and you're still sitting on your backside insisting she is the problem. You're not just living proof that some people shouldn't have dogs, you shouldn't have children either. Not even a snail should be in your care, you're so bad at it that it would escape and get run over because of your ineptitude. There are many adjectives for you, but I like my account too much to lose it over someone who is a waste of oxygen. Post from the friend. I read the posts by my friend, though that's a term I'm using very loosely at the moment because someone was afraid for her safety after everything she wrote last time. But instead of feeling bad for her or sorry for her, I'm terrified that I ever called her a friend. Let's call her Angelica. Angelica was always a little eccentric, maybe even crazy, but the situation escalated to unimaginable levels when she hosted Christmas Eve at her house. Today I want to clarify something. There are many things Angelica omitted or outright lied about, and after what happened, I cannot let it go, because people were hurt in the process, and all because of her. Especially because it was not an accident like she claims, but a trap. I will also tell you that the dogs are fine, they were not euthanized. I did not learn all the facts in the order I'm about to tell them. But I think you will appreciate that I tell it in this order. Angelica usually hosts these Christmas Eve gatherings at her house with her family. She has 2 dogs you already know about, they're not even older than 2. She bought them right before Christmas 3 years ago, and the first Christmas Eve they weren't a problem because they were still puppies. But they were never trained, and they began developing very vicious behavior because of her. The neighbors complained, her HOA complained, even her friends and family expressed concern. They were a danger to other people, but also to her. We arrived on Christmas Eve, I was there too along with her family. We arrived together with Eric, as she calls her older son in the story, and we saw the dogs were in the backyard. Immediately, her son asked her to put them in another part of the house. She reluctantly did it. Later, her younger son Andrew and his wife arrived. The difference is that she had not asked Andrew not to bring Daphne. She knew her son would never attend Christmas without his wife. She lied about that part, just like she lied about having had the dogs for a long time and about her grandchildren playing with them. None of that is true, so much so that for a moment I wondered if the post wasn't written by Angelica at all. But as I read further and saw the details, it was unmistakably her. Unfortunately. Yes, Angelica hates her daughter-in-law enormously. She cannot accept that Daphne has Asperger's and some food allergies. She hates her for it without any reason, because Daphne does nothing except bring her own food to events to avoid cross-contamination or inconveniencing the hosts. But something in Angelica makes her hate Daphne simply for who she is. A few minutes after Andrew and his family arrived, she let the dogs out. Not all the guests had arrived yet, and she assumed that now that most of us were there, no one would mind. Her sons told her to take the dogs to another area of the house, but they didn't even have time to move before the dogs began attacking Daphne. She was carrying her food with her, and the dogs smelled it and started jumping on her, until the jumping turned into a full attack. I don't want to be graphic, remembering it is already enough, but they grabbed her by the arm and the leg and wouldn't let go while pulling her. Eric and Andrew tried to intervene, but with very little success. You can hit those dogs and they will not release easily. Eric's wife stayed back with the children to protect them. Luckily, a neighbor heard the screaming, and with more experience handling dogs, managed to separate them. But yes, they caused serious harm, and there was blood everywhere. They called an ambulance while Andrew went with his wife to the hospital, and Eric went with his daughter back home to leave her with his wife so he could return to see his sister-in-law. During all of this, Angelica did try to do something, but like I said, the dogs were untrained and didn't listen to her. We all left shortly afterward. We were scared, worried for Daphne, and even afraid the dogs might get loose again and attack someone else. Angelica wanted us to stay, insisting it was just an accident and that her sons would come back, saying it was all Daphne's fault for bringing food. Of course no one stayed, or at least I didn't. I left basically right after the ambulance. I think it was a trap. She knew no one wanted those untrained dogs loose at the party, but she released them anyway once everyone was there. I truly believe this could have ended in a much greater tragedy, if instead of Daphne, the dogs had targeted the children, or if the neighbor hadn't arrived in time to intervene. It was far too traumatic to recount in more detail, but that's what happened. I have been in contact with Angelica's sons to write this with more information and to ask permission to share my version. They didn't know about these posts, but they also weren't interested in reading them. I gave them a summarized version, and they told me even more. Daphne is fine, traumatized, of course. But the only permanent things will be some scars. She needed 2 surgeries and is now undergoing a lot of therapy, but she is healing. Their daughter is also in therapy because she witnessed far more than a child her age ever should have seen involving her mother. I don't know if Eric's kids are also in therapy, but I can easily believe that if they saw any part of what happened, they must be deeply traumatized as well. The only thing Angelica didn't lie about was losing her house. I think it was the one detail that didn't make her look quite as bad. But her dogs were not euthanized, though not thanks to Angelica. It was her sons who requested that the dogs be taken to a facility that rehabilitates animals raised improperly. They would have been euthanized, but her sons love animals and didn't want that ending for them when the fault was entirely their owners, yes, Angelica's. She also has probation for irresponsible animal ownership. And besides paying fines, she paid a considerable amount for the damages her dogs caused to her daughter-in-law. The entire family of Andrew now has a restraining order against her. She cannot contact them, and she hasn't, even though in her story she claimed she sent a birthday gift to her granddaughter. That did not happen, according to Andrew. I feel ashamed to have ever considered Angelica a friend. But unlike her, who lied in almost every part of her post, I will face my responsibility in this. I will live with the memories of that night until I die. I know Angelica is fine, she goes to work and does her routine, but for me and the other friends who were present on Christmas Eve, we've had no contact with her since. I can't say she's medicated, because the depression from losing everything has been devastating for her, but at least we're not worried that she might do something extreme, at least not something extreme to herself, because she has already done reckless things.